welcome you all here today. I'm Kim Laney. I'm your OLLI coordinator. And today's brown bag topic is scams, how to identify, avoid, and report them with Meghan Gallagher from Area Agency on Aging. Thank you to the friends of OLLI who make these brown bag presentations possible week after week. Their donations are the reason that OLLI can offer these presentations to the community. I also wanted to share an opportunity. We just learned recently that there will be an alumni talk with Stephen and Amy Boner from Alchemy Distillery. Sorry, I slaughtered that name. The OLLI members are also invited to attend this presentation, and we're really excited because Stephen and Amy offered an OLLI class with us back in summer a few years ago, and this picture that you see here with the two lovely ladies enjoying the show is one of our favorite OLLI pictures. We really love to use that for different pieces of promotion that we offer. After the presentation today, we will make a recording available, and the way that you can view that presentation online is navigate to the brown bag page on our website and look for the little Mr. Brown Bag presentation information, and then you will be able to find that recording. See, so we're just about ready to get started. If you haven't, please go ahead and mute yourself. Meghan has indicated that she is open and willing to take questions as we go. So if she's talking about something and you have a question, you can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself, you can just ask your question. If you feel shy, you can ask your question in the chat and I will go ahead and read it out for you. But it's nice to have that interaction and engagement. So please feel free to ask questions as we go along. I think that's it. And once again, thanks for staying connected. Jane, I will turn it over to you.
And I'm delighted to welcome Meghan Gallagher, who's the Information and Assistance Manager at the Area 1 on Aging. She's been with the agency for 2 years now, but has worked for the last 15 years as an advocate for older adults. Maybe she can fill us in a little bit on some of the details of that. So Meghan, it's all yours.
Great, thank you. And thank you for having me here today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So just give me a minute to get my scams up here, or my slides. Okay. So as Kim mentioned, I'm going to be talking about scams today. And we're going to go through kind of what is a scam and tips to avoid them, and then what to do if you are scammed. And as Jane mentioned, I work for the Area 1 Agency on Aging. As the Information and Assistance Manager, I oversee our information and assistance, which is kind of, you call us whenever you have a question. I also oversee the volunteer driver, stay put, fall prevention, and home sharing programs. And so I'm obviously not going to go into detail about our agency or anything like that today, but I just wanted to say, if you do have any questions about who we are or what we do, you can feel free to reach out to me. And I have my contact information listed at the end of the presentation. I have been with the agency for 2 years. Prior to that, my main background was assisted living. So I was the executive director at Alder Bay Assisted Living for 5 years prior to switching over to the Area 1 Agency. And really working with older adults is the only thing I've done in my kind of adult career. And it honestly got started, even when I was a kid. My grandpa had a stroke when I was 12. And so I'd spend every summer with grandma helping her take care of grandpa. I volunteered at skilled nursing facilities and everything like that in high school. It was kind of just an early passion of mine. I also, I consider myself old at heart. I fit many of the stereotypes that we have for older adults. I'm usually in bed by 8:30. I love to crochet, all of those things, love to garden. So I can connect very easily with people usually. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to kind of just cover a scam. what is a scam, and some common terminology that you might hear associated when people are talking about scams, what some of the more common scams are, and then we'll go into those common scams and really learn how to identify them, tips to avoid each type of them, and then what to do, how to report them. And then I have some resources to give you guys so you can stay informed or get more information if you want to. I also want to throw out, as Kim mentioned, I am perfectly fine with you interrupting me. And that includes if I flip through a slide too quickly and you didn't get a chance to finish reading it, or you think I'm talking too fast. I usually am a little chatterbox. Feel free to kind of just unmute yourself and say, hey, can you go back a slide, or can you repeat what you just said? I didn't catch it. I don't take any offense to that because I know it's a quality of mine. So on this slide here, I have basic definitions. I pulled all of these definitions from dictionary.com. But essentially, when we say the word scam, it's a deceptive scheme or trick that's used to cheat someone out of something. Most often it's money. Okay, and then we have something called spoofing. I think all the words that they use with scams are just, I don't know who created them. So spoofing is when you impersonate another person through some sort of media, so internet, phone, that sort of thing. Phishing is related specifically to the internet, so emails or websites, and it's when you mimic an actual website or an actual like email from your bank or something like that. But there's minor differences that kind of you can learn to notice that when it's a fake one. Smishing is when people collect personal information via like a text message. And so usually it's a two-step process. You'll get a text message saying, click here or call this number to get more information. And when you do that, they're able to kind of hack into your phone and pull information off your phone. And then there's catfishing, which is related to romance scams most often. And it's when someone is falsely presenting themselves on the internet, social media, so it's those stories we hear of, the 50-year-old man pretending to be, an 18-year-old girl and just using pictures of a girl from the internet. And then I have this fun slide of all the different types of scams. And honestly, they're probably not all the scams in the world listed on this slide here. I pulled this information from the Federal Communications Commission and the Federal Trade Commission. There's 67 here on the page. And we're not going to talk about all of them because I would be here with you guys for probably about 2 days. But I did highlight, so the ones you see in blue are ones that we've gotten calls about with our information and assistance program. Someone saying, hey, I got this email or I got this phone message, like, do you think it's a scam or what should I do? And unfortunately, sometimes that call is, hey, I gave this person this information and now I'm starting to think maybe I shouldn't have, like, what should I do next? And so I have a quick poll, and the poll is anonymous, that I just kind of want to ask, how many people have heard of, one of these, sorry, I'm losing my mouse here. There we go. So how many of these scams you have personally heard of? Thank you, Kim.
Okay, I see here now.
I don't know what you all see, but it looks like the poll's been going on for 30 seconds. And so Megan, just let me know when you want me to end the poll.
Okay, we're at about 77% who have voted. So I would say we can give it another second or two for anyone else to join or who just joined to get in. And then you can go ahead and close it out.
All right, 5 seconds.
You
We'll
can
give it
look
all the way for 1 full minute of polling. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna end it now.
Cool. Okay, so hopefully you guys are seeing, oh wait, share the results. Is that,
Shall I share them?
yeah, go ahead and
All
share.
right, so
Thank
y'all
you.
can see.
Yeah, so as you can see, I mean, the majority of you, 59%, have heard of plenty of these scams. You know, a lot of them are very common, and kind of come across on a almost daily basis if you're kind of connected to the internet and everything like that.
Okay,
Yeah, you can go ahead and take down the scam or the poll. And then you'll notice there are 3 that are highlighted in green. And that is because scams don't just happen to older adults. It's a common misperception that, you know, oh, I'm old, so I'm going to get scammed sort of thing. Are you able to exit the scam or the poll for me, Kim?
sorry, are you still seeing it?
Yeah.
Let's see, stop sharing the results. There you go. And there are a couple questions while I've got you. There are a couple questions in the chat. Chat. It says, Megan, I don't have a cell phone, just a landline, but all you are talking about applies to a desktop computer, right?
No, so some of these are phone scams as well. And unfortunately, so with a landline, you're still kind of susceptible to any of the phone scams that you might get through a cell phone.
Okay, thanks.
There we go. Okay, so let's see. There we go. And so as I mentioned, you know, scams happen to people of all ages. I got this data chart along with the next couple that you're going to see from the FTC website. And I have kind of a page at the end of all the different websites that are good to go to, but the ftc.gov/explore data is really cool because they have a bunch of different kind of infographics that you can pull up and get information about scams and percentages. So if you see, actually 50% of the scams that are reported are for people that are 19 and under.
I know.
Okay. And then as the age groups get older, the percentage is lower. And honestly, that's most likely because older adults are hesitant to report scams, you know, especially if they're living alone. You know, they think, oh, well, if I tell my family that I got scammed, they're going to make me move into a facility, or they're going to make me get a caregiver. They're going to take away my finances because they think I can't be trusted anymore. And that fear is unfortunately real, depending on who kind of you have in your support system. And so what we see is not necessarily 50% of the scams that are happening to 19 and under. What that means is 50% of the reported scams are happening to people 19 and under. The other trend that you notice is the amount of money lost per scam is increasing with each age group, to the point where when you look at the 80 and over, it's an average of $1,300 that people are getting scammed out of each scam that gets reported. Okay, so those 3 that I had highlighted, the kidnapping scam, the online shopping scam, and the utility scam, I put those in green to give real life examples that scams happen to people of all ages. So all 3 of these scams not only happened to me, but I fell for them. And so the kidnapping scam happened when I was the youngest. I think I was in my 20s. And it was, I didn't even know spoofing was a thing. I didn't know that word. I didn't know someone could copy your phone number. And so what happened was somehow someone was able to take my phone number and access my voicemail, access all of my contacts. And in my phone, I had my mom saved under mom. And she was, you know, one of my speed dials and everything like that. And so these people called my mom. And when they called her, it showed up as my phone number. So she thinks it's me calling her. And she answers and they tell her that they've kidnapped me and I'm tied to a chair and, you know, all these things. And so my mother, I grew up, I'm rather stubborn, especially as a young child. And So the thing she always told me growing up was, I never have to worry about anyone kidnapping you. They'll end up paying me to give you back. And so she was automatically kind of like, this is weird. You know, last I talked to Megan, she was, you know, at home, what's going on? Still freaked out a little bit, but she thankfully had the wherewithal to hang up with the kidnappers and call my boyfriend at the time, who thankfully was with me. And we were at the beach. And so she calls him frantic of like, do you know where Megan is? And he's like, yeah, she's right here next to me. And so we were able to quickly realize it was a scam without her panicking too much. And then I had to go into Sprint, who carried my phone service at the time. And I was able to still keep my own number, but they did some wipe on my phone to hypothetically make it better. But still freaky. And that was kind of my first introduction to like, whoa, people can do this, technology. The utility scam happened probably about 2 years ago when I was working at Alder Bay. And, you know, scammers love to take advantage of people when they're confused, when they're stressed, when they're overwhelmed. And I was kind of all of those things. I had a business office manager who paid the bills. So I signed off on them, but, you know, I didn't kind of have a fresh memory of what has been paid, what hasn't. And he's on his lunch and someone, a PG&E technician calls. So I answer the phone and he says he's a technician from PG&E and he's on our way. He's notifying us that he's on his way to our facility to disconnect the electricity because we haven't paid our utility bill. And I freak out. I don't even for a second pause to think this is weird. I immediately go to elder abuse and I'm like, you can't shut off my electricity. I have older adults and they need the elevator and they need oxygen and I will, you know, report you for elder abuse if you turn off our electricity. And so I make a big stink and he's like, you know, I'm really sorry. I'm just the technician. If you want to find out more information, you can call this number. And so mistake number 2 that I made was I wrote down the number he gave me and I immediately called that number rather than looking up PG&E's number and calling them directly. And so after the fact, when I listened to this recording, it seemed very fake. But in the moment, I'm stressed out. I have 12 things that I should be doing, and now I have to deal with this, and they might potentially turn off my electricity. And so I call and I mean, it seemed realistic in the moment. It said, you know, it had options, press option 1 for this. And so I get connected to another person and they tell me that, you know, they're shutting off the electricity because my bill's overpaid and I don't have access to the bill right now because my business office manager's on lunch. And so I'm like, God, did we forget to pay it? And they're trying to convince me to give them my credit card number to pay the bill immediately. And honestly, thankfully, I was not able to do that with utility bills at work because if I was at home, I probably would have. I was so frantic in the moment. And so I'm like, I can't do that. We have to cut a check. And at this point, my business office manager has come back from lunch and bless his heart because he looks at me when I'm telling him this story and he's like, yeah, I think you're getting scammed. And that was the first moment that I took a step back, breathed, and really like thought about what had happened and was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I fell for this. I can't believe I didn't even question it. And so I was still paranoid because I was like, they can't turn off the electricity. And I actually drove down to the PG&E office to talk to them directly and verify that, yes, in fact, our bill was paid in full and it was a scam. And so these things definitely, I mean, I'm a person, I teach presentations about scams. Like I have my right mind and I'm not confused most days. You know, so I would think I'm never going to fall for a scam. Like I'm always going to notice it. And that's not true. People, I mean, the people who do scams, they devote their life to being tricky. And it's very easy to think that you're never going to fall for it, but you do. They catch you in the moment where you're stressed out, you're not paying attention. I've also been a victim of online shopping scam, but that's one of the ones that we're going to go into more detail about. So I'll share that fun story with you once we get there. So here is just California. And all of this data is for the year 2020. And so you can see in 2020, there were over 200,000 fraud reports that were filed, and over $4 million was reported lost from those fraud reports. And so it averaged, $407. And then you also can see kind of the top 10 fraud categories for the state of California. And this is across all ages. So you see imposter scams, online shopping, internet services, privacy data, cyber threats, prizes and sweepstakes, telephone, healthcare, travel, business, and then fake checks and money offers. Okay. The other really cool thing that the FTC website does is you can break it out by age. And so that's what I've done on the next two slides. So your chart on the left is looking at the top 10 most common scams for people that are ages 50 to 59. Okay. And then the median loss kind of total is I just tallied up all of the median loss for the 10 different categories. And so you can kind of see, online shopping was 81% of the reported scams. There was a total of 23 million lost, and it averaged, $100 per client. And that's kind of what it tells you for each one of them. And then the graph on the right is ages 60 to 69. And so you have the same data, and you'll notice a lot of overlap. In fact, the only thing is that's different is for the 50 to 59-year-olds, you have that job scams and employment agencies. And when you hit the 60 to 69, you're not seeing that group. Instead, you see internet information service scams pop up. And then also with the median loss for 60 to 69-year-olds, so you see the total of that median loss, and in parentheses, that's the difference between 50 to 60. And so you see a lot of the similar scams, but there is a higher reported loss in the 60 to 69 age group. And unfortunately, the more that we move up in age groups, the bigger that difference is. So on this slide on the left-hand side, this chart is showing the top 10 categories for people age 70 to 79. With now we're at a median loss of $20,000. And so that's a 50 to 60 had a $1,000 difference. Now we're at, a $7,500 difference between 60 and 70 age group. But we still are seeing a lot of the same scams. So this time the only difference is number 10, you see malware and computer exploits instead of that internet information services, but it's still internet kind of related. And then on the right-hand side, we see 80 plus. And so again, a lot of the same categories, but now medical insurance and discount plans have popped up, and we've seen vacation and travel drop off. And a staggering, I actually can't see it because the pictures are in my way, but hopefully you guys can, median loss of, I think it was like $27,000 or something close to that. And so when you compare that all the way back to the 50 to 59, we're looking at, almost triple the amount of money that's being lost per scam. Okay. So what I'm going to focus in on today, because if you remember back, there were 67 scams listed on that one page I showed you. I'm going to focus on the 8 scams that were common across all 4 of those age groups. So looking at 50 plus, these are the 8 most common scams that are at least reported. Okay, so we have the online shopping scam, government imposer, business imposer, friends and family imposer, fake checks, private prizes, sweepstakes and lotteries, romance scams, and tech support. And for the imposer, I've just grouped that all into one because they're all pretty similar. It's just you're pretending to be a different person. Okay, so we'll start with online shopping. And according to the FTC, the definition of the online shopping scam is anything that's undisclosed costs. So you order something online and all of a sudden you're charged $50 for shipping when that wasn't included in your total originally. failure to deliver on time. So they promise you that something's supposed to arrive next week. And, you know, a month later, they're like, oh, it's delayed, and you're still waiting for it. Non-delivery, so the item, you know, just never shows up, or a refusal to honor a guarantee on purchases made online. So that means, you know, the boot was showing for $20, and then once your credit card goes through, they're like, oh no, that sale ended, and so you actually have to pay $70 for this boot. Okay, this UGG website is actually a fake website. So it looks very realistic to me. I'm not a fashion person. I know nothing about Uggs. So looking at this, kind of the only thing that really jumps out at me is the numbers after each UGG. But honestly, I've never shopped for Uggs before. Maybe they just number Uggs and that's the style number or something like that. And so I click on it and think that it's real, and my Uggs never come, and they take my money, and now they have my credit card information as well. And so we'll talk about kind of things to spot on how to identify a fake website. And so this is the third scam that happened to me. And you guys are actually going to be the first people that I've told this story to, because I was so embarrassed that I fell for it. I was like, I cannot tell my friends, like, this is, how did I, like, how did I fall for this? And it was the ticket price. So I'm a big backpacker. I love going hiking, but my feet get so many blisters. And so I finally found this one pair of shoe that don't give me blisters. And it was a Merrell hiking boot. And so I needed a new pair. And I'm like, I'm just going to get the same exact model, style, everything. And so in my Google search bar, I typed in, you know, Merrell glove 5 women's, whatever it was. And, you know, if you've ever typed in or tried to shop on Google, you'll notice you can do the search, but there's also a tab that says shopping. And if you click on that tab, it pops up kind of little bubbles, and it will say, you know, the item, the price, if there's shipping involved, and then give you a website name, and you can click on that and it brings you to the website. So I initially went to the Merrell website, and the boot was like $80. And they're kind of they're not like your actual hiking boot. They're more of like those like treadless, like it's cloth basically. And so essentially what had happened is I wore holes in it pretty quick. And so I'm like, oh, $80 is so expensive for a boot that's really only going to last me like one season. Let me go to Google and see if, you know, I can find it cheaper on eBay or something like that. And so that's when I go to Google and I type in the information. And so I'm scrolling through these, and I see one for $34. And I'm like, oh, deal. Click on the website. And I'm like, this is awesome. And when I click on the website, I add the one pair of shoes to my cart, and a little bubble pops up and says, you get free shipping if you spend more than $50. So I'm like, oh, even better deal. Like, I'm going to go through 2 pairs of shoes. I'll just buy 2 pairs, and then I get free shipping. So now I'm getting 2 pairs of shoes for less than what I would have gotten 1 pair of shoes. Now that should have been a red flag in my brain, you know, too good to be true. But I was just so stoked on the deal that I go through. I don't click on anything else on the website. You know, the link from Google brought me straight to the shoe that I was shopping for. I added it to my cart. I went to the cart. I put in all my information, clicked submit. Good as gold. I'm going to get a great deal on these shoes. I get an email following up saying my order has been placed. There's an order confirmation. I go about my business. You know, it's been about 2 weeks, and I'm like, man, that's weird that I haven't gotten my shoes yet. Like, and I never got an email saying they were shipped. And so I go back to the email, and there's a contact us link in the email. So I click on that, and it's a broken link. So I'm like, huh, that's weird. Let me go back to the website. So I go back to the website, and I could not find contact information anywhere on the website. There's no phone number to be heard of. At the bottom, there's an address. So I'm like, okay, let me like put in this address. And it's for a hotel in LA. So now I'm like, oh goodness, this is not looking good. And so I actually kind of click on some of the other tabs, and it's just, you can tell. I mean, now all of a sudden that I'm in my right mind and really analyzing it, they have like one shirt posted and one shoe, you know, it's a very basic website. And I'm like, oh, I think that this is a fake website. And so I called thankfully I used my credit card to purchase them. And so I was able to call my credit card, and they investigated it and refunded me my money. And then they actually recommended to me that I call or file a report with the FTC. And so I went ahead and did that. You know, and now that I know a little more about scams, I'm, you know, trying to forgive myself for falling for it, because, you know, again, I mean, it's just so easy if you don't pay close enough attention. So with online shopping, some tips to look for to try and make sure that you're on a real website is, you know, there's definitely that poor website design I mentioned. You know, you'll have images that are pixelated. There'll be typos or grammatical errors, broken links. So if you try and click on something, it's not going to work. Very basic designs, because they do get shut down very quickly. And so, you know, they don't put a lot of effort into building it. So they can just you know, that one gets shut down. They buy a new web address and create a new one. They'll ask for unusual payments. So if you see someone, you know, an online site telling you to use Bitcoin or a wire transfer or a gift card that doesn't belong. So you're on that UGG website and it's telling you to pay with an Amazon gift card, you know, red flags. There'll be suspicious domain names if you pay attention to the domain. And so it will just be like usually one letter missing. So instead of Walmart.com, it will be Walmart and the A is missing. Or they'll add an extra word like Walmart sales, Walmart deals, kind of thing to the domain name. So if you just glance at it, you think it's the real thing. The steep discounts that I should have, like I said, should have been my red flag. If something's too good to be true, it probably is. You know, if you go back to the Google shopping page and every other link is showing you that these shoes cost 60, 70, 80 bucks, then the one that is showing me $34 is a scam. Suspicious or non-existent contact information. So again, if I hadn't been so wrapped up in the scam, in the good offer, I should have clicked on the website a little more and seen what the contact information was, because if I had done that before, that would have been a huge red flag. Okay, there's not even a phone number, and the address is fake, kind of thing. And you can also look for the HTTPS. So anytime you enter, so for me, there was normal payment options. You know, it asked me to just put in my credit card. So there was no red flag there. But if I had paid attention, there most likely would not have been the HTTPS before the web address. And what that means is it's a secure site. And so anytime any company, any website is asking you to put in confidential information like your name, your address, your credit card number, it should always be on an HTTPS website. And so that's a really good one. If you don't catch anything else, you go to put your payment, double check the web address and make sure that it's the HTTPS. So do you guys have any questions with online shopping? I can try and see the chat here. Okay.
I don't see anything in the chat, Megan. There is just one note about ransomware that I see.
Yeah, and that's one of the tech support scams. And so we're going to actually go into tech support scams.
Quick, now another one. It says, if it isn't HTTPS, what would it be?
So it's just going to still be, so if you're shopping on Amazon.com, I actually think Amazon is a secure site from start to finish, but let's say it's not. So you're on www.amazon.com. When you get to the payment page, that's when the HPPTS will pop up. And so it will just show, you know, your normal www instead of HTTPS. I think that's two backslashes, a colon, and then www. Okay. So imposter scams, like I said, you know, if we go back to the top 8 common ones, we had business imposters, government imposters, friends and family imposters, and I've kind of rolled that all into one. And hopefully no one is going to be the big bad wolf, you know, doing an imposter scam to try and eat you. but they are pretending to be someone to gain your trust, to get confidential information or money out of you. And so these graphics I pulled, most of this information is from the FTC website, and I have the links at the end of it, because it's a great website if you want to do your own research after this, look up some other scams. But for imposter scams, it can come in a various forms. So that person who asked, hey, I only have a landline, you can still get an imposter scam from your landline. It can happen as a phone call, a text message, an email, all of the above. And it works the same way regardless of who they're pretending to be. You know, they reach out to you as someone you trust, so an authority figure or a friend, a family, that sort of thing, and convince you that you need to send them money or share personal information, something along those lines. And so some tips to avoid it is, you know, a government agency, social security is a big one. You know, you get that voicemail. Even I've gotten that voicemail that my social security benefits have you know, been held or whatever they say. And I'm like, okay, I know this is a scam because I don't get social security benefits. But no government agency is ever going to call you out of the blue and ask for personal information. Okay. You can't trust your caller ID. And this is especially true with like friends and family. Again, going back to my kidnapping scam, there are ways to spoof a phone number. So it could show up that I'm calling you and you think, oh, this is Megan from the Area 1 Agency on Aging. Oh, she's asking me for my updated contact information. Great, I trust her. Let me give it to her. Or a lot of times people like international people running the scams can spoof a local area code. So you see a 707 number, you think it's someone local, but it's actually someone calling from, you know, Mexico or something like that. And a good red flag, and this is true across every scam there is in the world, never ever pay with wire transfers, cryptocurrency, or a gift card. Anyone asking you for one of those three things, it's going to be a scam. Okay. So again, there's a bunch of different people that they can imposter. So it could be a family member, and that's, you know, we've all heard of like the grandparent scam where, you know, an older adult gets a call from a grandkid saying, you know, oh, grandma, I'm stuck in Mexico. I got arrested. I need money. I need bail money, or I got in a car accident, that sort of thing. Court official can say, you know, that there's a warrant out for your arrest and you need to pay this fee. Otherwise, you know, you're going to get arrested. And, you know, all of them are focused to make you panic. So if you get a phone call that a loved one is in jail in a foreign country, you panic and you stop thinking rationally and think, hey, this is weird. You're just like, oh, I need to help them. You know, same thing. Oh my God, I'm about to be arrested. You know, I need to take care of this issue. The police can say the same thing. You know, they're threatened to deport you or arrest you, fine you, you know, for X, Y, and Z. Social Security, a lot of it has been related to COVID now. Of, oh, our office is closed. I know we normally don't call you, but our office is closed due to COVID. So we're doing everything over the phone now. And I need you to provide me this information. IRS, there's a lot of tax scams that pop up, especially during tax season. Or your bank calling. And again, same with the government, your bank is never going to call you out of the blue. They're never going to email you out of the blue and say that they need personal information. So when in doubt, hang up. Don't do what I did with PG&E and call the number they gave me. Go back to your statement, go back, you know, to the phone book, look up the official phone number for whoever is supposedly calling you, and call that number and say, hey, I just got off the phone with someone. This is the information they told me. You know, and the official phone number is going to say, yeah, that wasn't us. That was a scam. You know, even if it's a family member. So let's say your grandson calls you saying, hey, I've been arrested. You know, I'm in Mexico or I'm in wherever. in jail, hang up and call their parents. Call a friend if you have a friend's phone number. And this is why it's always good, you know. I know growing up, I was always like, I don't want my mom to have my friends' phone numbers. I don't want her to have to call them. But in these situations, it's always handy to have someone, you know, because my mom lives in Connecticut. She's not nearby. So it's not like she could drive to my house and check to make sure that I'm okay. And so her having a few phone numbers of people that live close to me that can go and check, you know, check on you to make sure that it is a scam. Okay, and so any questions with the imposter scams before I move on to fake checks? Someone says they've actually been called by their own phone number and name. Yeah. That's a good way to recognize that it's a scam, when you call yourself. So fake check scams are schemes, and it can be, you know, various different schemes that I have on the next slide, but basically it's where someone is overpaid with a forfeited check, a counterfeit check, and then asked to wire the difference back immediately, you know, after you deposit the check. And so you end up being responsible for the funds for the fraudulent check. And something that's really interesting that I honestly did not know before kind of doing more research for this presentation was just because a check clears in your bank doesn't mean it's a valid check. So if I was to deposit a check today for $1,000 from whoever, you know, it usually takes like 12 to 48 hours or something along those lines for your check to clear. So at first they hold the balance for you and I can't touch that $1,000. But then it clears and I'm like, woo, shopping spree. Let me go spend that $1,000. And it takes the bank often up to 2 weeks or longer to realize that it was a counterfeit check. And at that point, they're going to call you up and they're going to say, hey, you deposited a fake check. You need to pay us $1,000. They'll automatically withdraw it from your account. So if I didn't have $1,000 in my bank account, I now have a negative balance because they took that $1,000 back from me. And so, you know, basically when in doubt, just don't deposit a check from someone you don't know. But ways to identify a fake check scam is overpayments. So this most frequently happens when you're selling things online. Let's say during COVID, you're trapped at your house and you make amazing bead jewelry and you're like, I've made so much of this because I have nothing else to do. I'm going to get on Etsy or I'm going to get on eBay and I'm going to see if I can sell any of it. And so you post some of it online and someone is like, oh, I'm really interested. Like, I'll mail you a check. And the earrings that you're selling are $50 and you receive a check for $500. And the person, you know, sometimes even before you receive the check, the person will reach out to you and say, oh my gosh, I just had a total brain fart and I accidentally added too many zeros to the check. It happens, so it's believable. And I wrote the check for $500, not $50. You know, can you do me a favor? And when you get the check, just deposit it and send me back the $450. You know, and sometimes they'll even say like, you know, for your trouble, go ahead and keep $75. Consider it a tip and just wire me back the $425. So you deposit the check, you send them back the $425. A couple weeks later, the bank's like, nope, that was a fake check. You now owe us $500. Claiming prizes, so sweepstakes. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one because while it can sometimes be a fake check scam, it's kind of its own category because fake checks are not the only way that you can get scammed for claiming prizes. And we're going to talk more in detail about this one specifically on its own. And then there's kind of personal assistants and mystery shoppers. So this is where you get hired by a supposed company to either be a personal assistant or a mystery shopper. And you're told to do something and kind of front the money. So for personal assistants, it's, you know, you have a new client. And so they're told to, you know, use this money or use a gift card and either send the gift card to the new client or purchase a bunch of things with it ship it to the new client, and then they're going to send you a reimbursement check, and that reimbursement check is going to be fake. With mystery shoppers, it's oftentimes you get hired to evaluate someone who sells gift cards, money, or wire transfers. And so they tell you that that's what you're going to be evaluating. Evaluate their customer service when you ask for a gift card, you know, order some in a few different denominations and see if they're able to do that. You know, and then they send you a check for the gift cards and the check is fraudulent, you know. So a few different ways that you can get a fake check. But some tips, regardless of which one of those it is, you know, never accept a check for more than the price. You know, if you are selling something online and, you know, someone sends you a check, it could very well be accidentally, but don't take that risk. Just say, you know, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to accept a check for more money than it's worth. Or use a payment service. So like eBay makes it really easy. I think I've never sold anything on Etsy, but I'm pretty sure Etsy makes it pretty easy, where they have an attached payment option. And so then you're having people put in, you know, credit card information for your services. So just don't even accept a check if you're selling something, cash or credit card only. You know, be wary of someone that you know is asking for something, and contact your bank. Never send money back to anyone ever, you know, unless it's, you know, very, very trusted and you're sure that that person is who they say they are. But definitely if it's just some online person that's buying something of yours, you know, anytime that they're asking you to send money back. And again, it goes back to wire transfers, gift cards, cryptocurrency. You know, if they're asking you to send them money in one of those three formats, that's an even bigger red flag that it's probably a scam. So any questions on fake checks? All right, so the next one we have is prizes, sweepstakes, and lottery. So that's any promotion of kind of a free prize. So it could be, you know, a foreign lottery, or, you know, you won this sweepstakes, that sort of thing. And again, this is one that it could be through your landline, it could be through your cell phone, could be through your email, fax, really any way that someone can contact you. Even, you know, normal snail mail, they could send you a letter saying, congratulations, you're a winner. And it still could be a scam. So things to look for with this type of scam is, number one, you have to pay. So any legitimate sweepstakes or anything like that, you're never going to have to pay a fee to improve your odds. In fact, that's illegal in the state of California, and I believe it's most states that it's illegal in. You know, if you go to a shopping, let's say it's REI, and they're giving away a package of, you know, camping gear. So it might say, you know, like, oh, free entry with every purchase. But if you scroll down to the bottom of it, there's always going to be that additional side note that says no purchase needed to enter. Click here just for an entry into the sweepstakes. So anytime you see someone that's like, you must purchase this to enter the sweepstakes, or hey, if you want to increase your odds, you know, purchase this or send us $5 or whatever. And you think, oh, $5, like, hey, if I actually win this all expense paid trip to France, $5 was totally worth it, no big deal. And you think, $5, who's going to scam me out of $5? But if they get $5 from 10,000 people, that's a whole lot of money that they just scammed and made off of this fake sweepstakes. So you see, again, the payment ways, if they're asking for a wire transfer, you know, gift card, deposit this check and send us the money back. Those are very common red flags across all the scams. Oftentimes they'll say that they're from the government or something else that sounds official. So they're from the National Bureau of Sweepstake, you know, awards. And that's a made up name, but you hear it, you hear National Bureau and you're like, okay, they sound like they know what they're talking about. And so you believe them rather than if they just said they were Joe Smo calling for, you know, to give you this prize. You can also, if you do get it in snail mail, you'll see that there's not an actual stamp on it. and they didn't pay full price, they sent it bulk mail. And in order to send something bulk mail, I believe you have to send like at least 100. There's, a certain number of envelopes you have to be sending out in order to get that bulk rate. And so that's kind of a red flag there, that something's going on. They might tell you, and this, I guess they could be telling you to attend a virtual sales meeting nowadays, but you have to attend something first. And if anyone has ever been to a timeshare presentation, you kind of know that pressure of, you have to act now or the deal goes away. Give us this if you want to, have the savings. And another red flag would be if you get a call out of the blue. So one of the things that I'm going to show you on the FTC website is how to sign up for the Do Not Call registry. And that means legitimate companies that kind of do cold calls or sale calls won't call you. The problem is people who are running scams are illegitimate companies. They're not going to follow that Do Not Call registry. So really good red flag. And again, this kind of holds true across the board, regardless of what the phone scam is, that if you're not on the Do Not Call and you get some phone call that seems too good to be true, then it usually is a scam. And I see, someone asked, what good is the call list? And, that's the issue. First, it takes 30 days to kick in. So kind of keep that in mind. It's not an immediate thing. And then, unfortunately, it's only legitimate businesses that follow the Do Not Call. So you're still getting all those scammer calls. And I think that this is something that's even worse on a landline, because most of the time, like I know my grandma has had the same phone number since before I was born. And so she doesn't even answer her landline anymore. Because it's all scam calls. She doesn't get anything besides scam calls. It's ridiculous how many, scam phone calls she can get in just a single day. And so, that it really is unfortunate that there is no solution that people have come up with yet. That's your $1 million idea. If you're still looking to make some money, is figuring out some technology that is a genuine Do Not Call that would somehow block scammers. One of the other things you can do is through your phone company. Most of them, I know my cell phone is now Verizon. And so there's actually in my, I think it's my settings app or my Verizon app, you can tell it that you don't want to receive calls from an unknown number. So there's no, it can't distinguish between a scam call and just a friend that got a new phone number. But what it does is it sends it straight to voicemail. So your phone never rings and goes straight to voicemail. So if it is that new friend or friend that got a new phone number, they're going to leave you a voicemail and they're going to say, hey, this is so-and-so, this is my new number, give me a call back when you get a chance. Sometimes the scammers, when it's a robocall, you'll get part of that, recording on your voicemail, but then okay, this is a fake call. I'm not going to call this person back. And that's a really good way to just stop all of those phone calls. It doesn't work. Like, unfortunately, right now I'm using my cell phone. I had it set up on my phone, before COVID, but now that I'm working from home, I'm using my cell phone for work calls. And so, I have a lot of clients or someone, who could be calling me back that, is an unknown number, but it's a genuine person. So I turned it off. Okay, so any other questions with kind of prizes and sweepstakes or just, phone scams in general? Okay, so our next one is romance scams. So this is predominantly done online, through either a dating website or app or social media. I know that there are still dating programs that exist of you can call this number and be connected with someone, but I think all of those have an actual person that's kind of doing the connecting. So I'm not sure. I wouldn't want to sit here and tell you that you're not going to get scammed that way, because when in doubt, just assume you will. But it's primarily through, the new apps that are popping up, Tinder, Match, eHarmony, all of those, or again, any of your social media accounts. And so someone will reach out to you and build a relationship with you. And these people seem really genuine. I mean, they email you or they message you every day, checking in, asking what you like, what you dislike, what your dreams in life are, and building that trust. And then they make up a story. So they're not going to just email you right off the bat and say, oh, hey, my name's Joe. I'd really like to meet you, but first I need $500. They put in sometimes a lot of time and effort to really build that relationship. And then when they feel like they have you on the hook, that's when they say, oh, I really want to meet in person, but unfortunately my car just broke down and I can't make the drive, unless I get my truck fixed first. So, I need, but I don't get paid until X, Y, and Z. So could you send me $1,200 to fix my car? And, I'll get paid before I come out to visit you. So I'll bring the money and reimburse you when I see you. I just can't wait to meet you. I really want to, have a conversation in person, da, 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 da. And so you're like, I really like this person. I haven't connected with someone, as much as I've connected with this person in such a long time. I'm lonely. I want someone in my life. I want someone I can share a meal with in the evening, or, go to the movies with. I don't like going to the movies by myself. What's $1,200? I have that on my bank account. No problem. Let me send it to them. And, it's a scam. Or oftentimes military service, basically any excuse of why they're sometimes unreachable, or why they can't meet you in person. So they're contracted on an oil rig, or they're overseas with the military, anything like that, and they need money. So some signs to look for to avoid those romance scams is, when things progress very quickly. So I message you today and introduce myself, and a week later, I'm telling you that I think you're the most amazing person in the world. And, my heart is full. Things like that. I'm so thankful I met you. I think I know it's so soon, but, I think I'm in love with you. I just have never felt this way about anyone else. And then again, they claim, oh, I wish I could see you in person, but, I'm deployed. Because I'm in the military, and that makes you trust them even more because military are trustful people. And then they ask you for money or lure you off the dating site. Oh, well, because I'm overseas, I don't have the best internet connection. My app doesn't even work, and I want to be free to talk to you. So let's email, or let's call, text message on the phone. Another good thing with the dating apps that you have to pay for is they say, oh, like, I don't need to keep paying for the subscription to Match.com because I've already met you and I can tell that you're the one for me and I don't need anyone else. I want to stop paying for Match.com. So let's reach out, give me your phone number and we'll reach out that way. And, they'll text you day in and day out, seeming like they care. And then all of a sudden it's, an emergency, hospital bills, travel, something pops up that they need money in order to, see you. So the number one rule of romance scams is if it's someone that you met online and you have not met them in person, you have not verified that they are who they say they are, and they ask you for money, it's a scam. And it's unfortunate because you're not only getting scammed, but your heart's getting broken because you thought that this was a real person and you thought that you really had a connection. And so it's really easy to convince yourself that this can't be a scam. I mean, no one could fake this. Like, we've had such great conversations. I've been talking to this person for 2 months, and you just don't want to believe it because you want that person. You loved the feeling that this person gives you, but it unfortunately, if you're talking to them online and they're asking for money, it's going to be a scam. Okay, so just don't do it. And so finally, we have tech support scams. So this is where that malware question. So tech support kind of encompasses anything that is computer internet related. So you have a virus or something's not working on your computer. They provide services that you don't need, fix a problem that doesn't exist. Anything like that falls under tech support. Okay. And so a lot of times you get kind of the message on the left-hand side. You're going through the internet, you're shopping, you're, doing whatever you're doing on the internet, and you see this little pop-up hit, and it's telling you that they detected suspicious activity or a virus or something like that. And you panic. That's a common thread in scams. They say something that makes you panic. You're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to get a virus. You don't pay attention. You're like, I do have a security system on my computer, so this must be from them. You don't pay quick enough attention. You pick up the phone and you call that phone number that they provide you. And then once you make that phone call, then they already have you on the hook. And the first thing they're going to tell you is they need remote access to your computer in order to diagnose the problem. And that is very true. When you're talking to a real tech support person, the easiest way to diagnose a problem is remote access, because then they can get in and they can check things on your computer. But that also is giving the person access to anything. So I know I have a horrible memory. And nowadays with passwords, you have to have a number and a letter and a symbol and everything like that. And so all of my banking, all of my everything, my Amazon account, all my shopping accounts, I have my password and my username saved. And giving someone remote access to that computer means that they could actually access all of that stuff. And while you're sitting in front of the computer on the phone with them, they're not going to do it, because you would see the website pull up. You basically can see what they're doing when you're sitting there right in front. But they can ghost the connection. And so when you finish that phone call with them, they'll be like, okay, go ahead and hit the X, and that will disconnect the remote access. But it doesn't actually. They still have access to your computer. Or even worse, when they said they were fixing something on your computer, they were actually installing a virus that is then reading all of your personal information. So they don't even need the remote access. They got all your information while they were supposedly fixing the issue. Sometimes, kind of best case scenario is they fix a problem that doesn't exist and you're paying for a service that you didn't need. Or they make you pay for something that you could have gotten for free elsewhere, something that you already have, subscriptions that don't do anything. But worst case scenario, they actually are installing, malicious viruses or something like that on your computer that's going to transmit. It can keep kind of shadowing your computer. So even if I don't have my banking information saved, the day after I make this phone call, I go to chase.com and I enter in my security information. They now have a copy of all of that. So it can happen, months later, and you don't really know that you have the virus on your computer. So some tips to avoid tech scams. You should always have your own security software on the computer. And when you buy a new computer, it usually comes, especially if you get like a packaged kind of deal, there usually has a security software. But I know what I'm super guilty of is usually it's a free trial. So, it comes with Norton antivirus for 12 months. And then 12 months come and go and I never renew it because I'm like, meh, that's $56 or something like that. I don't want to pay that right now. I haven't had any viruses. I've been fine. But I could have viruses and just not even know it. Or I wasn't getting viruses because I had the free trial of Norton and that was keeping the viruses away. And, if you get a pop-up, because again, it doesn't have to be a pop-up, it could be a phone call, so let's say I'm working off of an iMac. And so nothing pops up on my screen, but I get a phone call saying, hey, this is so-and-so from Apple. We noticed that your computer is not performing at top efficiency. If you let us remote access your computer, we can fix that. We can install like the new driver and your internet speed will speed up or whatever the line is. So don't believe it. If you get a pop-up or something like that. So if having an Apple computer, if I was to get a pop-up, I do not call that 800 number that they provide me, If I think something really is wrong, again, I'm gonna, ignore that, and I'm gonna call Apple support. I think it's in my user manual who I should call, or I can look it up in the phone book kind of thing, and call that person and say, hey, this is what's popping up on my screen. Because sometimes, so malware can actually be installed just by clicking on a link. So if you get a pop-up that says click here or something like that, clicking there automatically installs the virus. So even if you're thinking like, oh, okay, I'm not going to call anyone, I'm not going to give anyone remote access, simply by clicking the wrong thing. And so if you get a pop-up, you should just exit out of it, run your security software to scan for any viruses or anything like that. And then if you are starting to have issues, you can, contact a computer technician that you trust. Don't just trust Google. Similar to my online shopping story where I just assumed anything on Google Shopping was real. People can create fake websites and fake Google businesses. And so if you just put in computer technician and get a phone number, it might not be someone who is real. So always read reviews, reach out to your friends, call the place that you bought the computer from. So like Best Buy, if you bought a computer from Best Buy, they have they have a fancy name for it. It's the Tech Squad or something like that. Same thing with most electronic companies. They're going to have some sort of tech support. Apple, Microsoft, they all have their own tech support. And so you can call one of them rather than just a random person that's popping up. And so kind of the last specific scam that I wanted to show you guys is the phishing. So those fake emails. And even though it didn't pop up on our top 10 most common scams, my personal opinion is I think it's because a lot of people don't realize they're getting scammed through a phishing email. And so it's quick glance. It looks legitimate. So this first email is from Microsoft Outlook, or so they want you to believe. And the worst part about this email is it even says that this email or the mail was sent from a trusted sender. So you get it and you're like, oh, my computer's telling me it's trusted. It must be Microsoft Outlook. I'm going to click here. So it says sign into a Microsoft account portal, and they have you click that. And it does, it pops up a screen that looks just like your normal Microsoft Outlook login. So you type in your login information, and they now have your login information because it's a spoof kind of thing where they're copying everything that you type. So some things to look for when you get an email is look at the email that it's being sent from. So oftentimes you get a really long domain name from someone, even if it's someone that you trust, because the phishing emails often come from a friend or family. So I know I've gotten a fake one from my boss at work, Maggie Kraft. She's our executive director. And I got an email that said from Maggie Kraft. And it was asking me to go to this link. And when I noticed that the email was like some funky, it was, all of our emails are your first initial, your last name at a1aa.org. And it wasn't that. And so I'm like, that's really weird. Maybe it's her personal account or something like that. But I was like, this seems off. Let me call her and see if she sent me this email before I click on anything. And so if you get anything that looks funky from a friend or family, definitely give them a call. The other thing you'll often notice is spelling mistakes or grammatical errors. And they can sometimes be really obvious. Sometimes it's super, unnoticeable. Or someone like me that's not the best with grammar, there could be a grammatical error, but I'm not going to catch it. And so what I always say, friend or family, don't click on the link, call the person and say, hey, I got this email from you, did you send it? What is this link for? And they'll either be like, oh, it's this great recipe for cheesecake, you should definitely look at it. Or I didn't send you an email with a link, and then you kind of know it's a scam. If you get one from Microsoft Office or Bank of America from a trusted website, and there's always going to be a link involved, because clicking on that link is what's going to download the malware onto your computer. Don't click on that link. So what I would do if I got this email, regardless of if I thought it was fishy or not, I would say, well, I'm not going to click on that link. I'm going to go to bankofamerica.com and I'm going to enter my information on the website that I know is Bank of America and see what pops up there. Or you can always just call Bank of America. Don't call the phone number that they put in the email. Call the phone number on the back of your Bank of America card and say, hey, I just got this email about unusual activity. Can you tell me what it's all about? They're not going to know what's different or that about the email or the unusual activity. And so then you kind of know it's fraud. So, okay, if the intervention freezes on your computer, yeah. So I am not the most tech savvy person. So what I would say, if your computer freezes completely, yeah, I mean, unplugging it is probably a great, because if a virus started to download or something like that, unplugging it is going to kind of stop it. The issue you then have is sometimes when you turn it back on, it's going to be all funky still. So you can always unplug it. And then that's when I would call Apple and say, hey, this is what happened. My computer froze. And before I ever plug it back in, I'm going to bring it into Apple and have them check it out and see what they can do for it. And then there's another question that's asking, how is malware different than a virus? And that is a fabulous question that I could pretend to answer, but I'm not positive I would be correct. I think so. I think malware is the one that pulls information off of your computer. And if there are any tech savvy people on the call, feel free to unmute yourself and correct me. So malware is going to be stealing your information, where a virus is just mayhem. You know, the person is doing it just to cause issues in your life. They're not actually going to be getting any of your information from it.
Megan, I did have somebody who sent me a question directly. So it's regarding the bulk rate political action mailings. This person says, I regard this as a scam. My parent receives more than 50 pieces on some days and feels obligated to read, answer surveys, and donate to many. And sometimes the donations are $400 to $900 a month. Any advice for stopping this kind of activity?
So it's really hard because, yeah, we didn't even talk about charity scams or anything like that, but that would kind of fall under. I know, my grandma's the same way. And, we finally got it in her head. We educated her on scams. And my Uncle David is kind of her financial person. So she willingly gave him, control to make her financial, decisions, pay her bills and everything like that. Cause she's, 96 now and at least recognizes that she's not as on top of things as she used to be. So for her, it was easier because she was willing to get on board. That she now knows she doesn't open any of her mail. She collects her mail, she puts it in a pile, and Uncle David will come by once a week and pick it up, and he'll pay any bills. He'll throw out, whatever's scammed. But it's this independence thing, of I don't need you. I'm an adult. I don't need you to go through my mail, and this struggle. And so, I mean, I would say really, like, if they're 100% cognitive, really trying to educate them on scams and that some of this might be fake. And so just instead of, hey, I'm going to take over your mail, saying, you know what, how about we have a conversation before you donate to anything? Let's talk about it. Let's, I can go on the computer and investigate where this money really goes, because even with real charities, you think you're donating to, the starving kid in Africa, but really your donation is going to pay the board member's salary. And so you could tell them, like, let's look into what this charity really does with your money, where it goes, who it's helping, before we make decisions on who we want to spend money with. And if you have someone that isn't completely cognitive, that rational line of explanation is not going to work. And unfortunately, at that point, you're better off changing their mailing address to like your mailing address. And, you could still send them mail directly, So that way they're still getting mail at their house. You can send them a letter, or you can even, if you get their bank statement at your house, you can then put it in an envelope and send it to their house. But you're playing that in between and, pulling all the scams out, so they're not actually getting any of that. But I definitely don't recommend doing that to someone who is completely cognitive, because they will realize what's going on and be very upset with you. Any other questions with any kind of any of the scams that we've talked about in detail so far?
I didn't get any more than what I shared.
Okay, great, thank you. So kind of the last example I have is from Amazon, with a couple other things to pay attention for fake emails. So you can notice that in from the email sender, the A in Amazon is missing. It also doesn't say your name. It just says, "Dear client." There's again a link. And the really cool thing about links, so if you've ever inserted a link into any email or document that you've ever done, you'll notice that there's two boxes to fill in. One is the actual link itself, and then two is the words that you want displayed for the link. So I could create a link that says, "Click here." And if I hover over, it's going to show where "click here" is actually going to bring you. So same with this, they can create a link that says Amazon.com. But if you hover over the link, it's going to show you where you're actually going to get taken when you click on that link. And you'll see on this one, it's redirect.something.com. And so that is a very big red flag that, if it's not actually taking you to Amazon.com, it's not taking you where, then that's going to be a scam.
Megan, this has been a fantastic presentation, and it's just full of content and advice and suggestions. It's really impressive. So you've done a fantastic job with this.
Oh, thank you.
And
Yeah, and so kind of the last couple slides that I do have is, okay, so you've been duped. And I do have a last poll that I want to take, or I want your guys' opinion on, and it is completely anonymous. So while I have worn my scarlet letter and admitted that I have been scammed to the public, you don't have to do that. The poll will be anonymous, but I am curious to see, how many of you have actually fallen for a scam. And you'll see, so there's the no option, and then there's two different yes options. Yes, I've been scammed, but I did not report it, or yes, I was scammed and I did actually report it. And so Kim, yep, thank you.
I also wanted to, while people are taking this poll, I did look up the definition of malware, and a virus is in the malware category. So it's just one of the types of malware. And then there were a couple other questions. Lynn says, if your call says press 1 to discontinue future call, don't do this. It could count as a response, and then they'll just keep calling, so just hang up.
Mm-hmm.
And then another, do you have any idea if apps you download from the Apple Store are always safe?
That I do not know about.
My guess would be no.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well. I mean, I say when in doubt, don't trust anything. Which is unfortunate, because we get, so at the area agency, some of the things that we've been doing at the first start of COVID, we started calling all of our volunteer driver clients. So those are people that traditionally live alone. They don't drive anymore. They often don't have friends or family that can give them rides. And so they're part of our program because we give them rides to their medical appointments. And so the first thing we did was start calling all of those people to make sure that they were aware of the shutdown and COVID and what that meant. And then asking them if they had a way to get groceries or someone to bring them groceries. And then we also did another call once the vaccine rolled out and said, hey, you're eligible for the vaccine. We can help you sign up. And we got hung up on a lot because people thought we were scammers, and so then I'd call back and be like, wait, no, I really am. Like, here's my office number, or look up the area agency, call and ask for Megan, they'll verify. And it did make it more difficult that we were working from home. So they'd call the office and then they'd be like, oh, well, Megan's not here, she's working from home, and so I'd tell the receptionist, if someone calls to verify that they were actually speaking to me, just give them my cell phone number, kind of thing, which is good. I'm glad people are being hyper aware, but it really is unfortunate that we have to deal with it. And that, when we genuinely are calling, there were a few people that just hung up on us and refused to answer our phone because they thought we were a scammer. And we're offering a service that could have potentially benefited them.
Yeah. Oh man, that's so tough. Hey, I went ahead and ended the poll, and I'm going to go ahead and share the results real quickly.
Great, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, so I mean, it looks like about 60% of us, have been scammed before. And I am really happy to see that the majority of people who have been scammed did report it. And so the easiest thing to do, the Federal Trade Commission is kind of who tracks fraud and everything like that. And so that's the best place for you to go if you have been scammed. Honestly, even if you didn't fall for it, it's still always a good idea to call them and tell them, hey, this is what's happening. Because sometimes, new scams are popping up all the time. And if no one ever calls them to tell them that, oh, this new scam happened, they're delayed in getting that information out to the public. So, if you do get some weird scam that no one has ever heard of or anything like that, it's never going to hurt. Call them and say, hey, this is what happened to me, even if you didn't fall for it. Because then that kind of scam gets put on people's radars.
Nice.
Yep.
Do you see there's another question in the chat?
Oh, no, I don't.
It says, I don't do anything over phone or email. Send me a letter. Many don't. Then I apply the charity ratings. Are they valid?
I'm not sure what you mean by charity ratings.
I'm not either. Okay.
Yeah. If you can clarify that.
Can I unmute?
Yeah.
Okay, you get these Navigator and Charity. I can't remember the names of them, but there's 4 or 5 places that rate charities as being good or valid. And I look for that to see if when I get something in the mail, if they're have that seal on there that says Charity Navigator or something like that with them. Endorsed by the BBB, the Better Business Bureau is one of them.
I would still be skeptical of that. It's really easy to fake a seal or saying, you've been approved by something.
There is an organization called charitynavigator.org, and
that's the one.
They publish a book that, or maybe the book, I'm not sure that they publish it, but it tells ratings of which charities, how they spend their money and how much goes to parties for them and overhead, et cetera, et cetera. And those that get a high rating are the ones where your money actually can do some good.
Right,
So,
and often they'll have pie chart or something, that shows how much goes to administration, how much goes directly to client services and such. But
Yeah.
I'm still a little nervous about whether those are accurate or not.
Well, I just I checked it out really quickly, and I sent you the link, Megan, so that you can check it out and report back to us if we can trust this.
Yeah, and someone did mention, the Secretary of State office, and I think that's a great idea. So any charity that's valid has to register, and they get a certain kind of business PIN number or something like that. And so you can go to the state and pull up. So if you get a letter from a charity or something like that, you can go there and kind of at least validate that it's a genuine charity, that they've applied to be a real charity. And then I think, you can always call it. And I mean, I would say this, whether it's a true charity or not, call the charity, know, kind of what we were just saying, know where your money's actually going. Talk to someone there. And, so if you have access to the internet, that's usually the easiest way. You get a letter saying, World, Wildlife Foundation. And, so, because what a lot of the emails will do is, so we all know, I think it's the WWF, and it's the cute little panda is, their logo. And so someone will mimic that. and sends you to a fake website or sends you to a fake phone number to call and donate. So you think you're going to the World Wildlife Foundation, but you're not. So I say, if you get that and that piques your curiosity and says, oh, I want to save the pandas, they're so cute, go to the computer and Google, Wildlife Foundation. That will bring you to the actual website. Again, you're going to see that secure HTTPS. It's going to have like an org. So like we're a nonprofit. Our agency is a .org, and so that's always a good thing. Like if it's a charity, if it's a nonprofit, they most often are not just going to have a .com web address, and so you can kind of look for that as well. And then if you're on a genuine website, they're absolutely going to have contact information. They want people to contact them, and so you can call them and say, hey, I'm thinking of donating. Like, I just want to know more about your organization. And so they, anyone who's with a real charity is happy to kind of talk to you and share that information. So if you've been scammed, like I said, you can go to the FTC and file a report. You can either do that online or you can call them. You definitely want to contact your bank. However you paid for that scam, you want to call them immediately. And then another tip is, if you're buying anything online, use a credit card rather than your debit card, because two things can happen. One, your credit card is covered under law that a fraudulent purchase is going to be reimbursed. Debit cards aren't held to the same standard because it's live cash, essentially. So while sometimes, like my wallet was stolen out of my car and they charged, $50 in gas to my debit card. And they ran it as a credit card, not a debit card. And so I didn't have any issue, getting my money back from Wells Fargo, but that's not always the case. And then it's also true, if you have some malware on your computer and don't know it, and you enter your credit card information for a totally legitimate website, but the person you type, so they now have credit card information and go shopping wherever they want to shop, you're going to get all that money back. Whereas, if they do it with your debit card, they, can spend it until they overdraw your account enough that the bank cuts it off, and there's not a guarantee that you're going to get that money back. We have a high cap department, and within high cap, there's social or senior Medicare patrol, and that group focuses just on Medicare scams. So that would be someone calling and wanting your Medicare number, someone telling you you're going to get like a free walker. I always tell people we didn't really talk about the free items today, but there's no such thing as a free lunch. No one is going to call you out of the blue and offer to give you something for free if you just provide them your Medicare number or your social security or your mailing address. It's going to be a scam. So if you are really in need of a walker, and you don't know how to get one, that's when you could call our agency, and we can explain the steps or how to get one legitimately. And then if it was a company, so let's say you fell for an Amazon email, definitely reach out to Amazon and let them know that this is happening, because same thing, maybe it's not on Amazon's radar yet. And so they'll now be aware of it. Sometimes they'll even send out like notices to customers saying, hey, this is what's been happening recently. We see now a lot of the banks and things like that have a disclaimer that says, we will never ask for your personal information over the phone. Those disclaimers came up because people reported this happening on scams. So as new things appear, you just sharing that it's happened. So a couple resources that I definitely recommend, especially if you're really wanting to kind of do more information, learn more about a scam that I didn't mention here today. The Federal Trade Commission is a great site to go to. They have a scam tab, and I actually think I have all these websites pulled up here if I can. Let's do this. Okay, so FTC, so you go to their website and they actually have right on the home page your report fraud, report identity theft, register for the do not call, and then let's see, oh, that's not what I wanted. you can do the search bar and say, you know, so let's say I want to learn more about tech support scams. Type that in, and it's going to pull up all sorts of different articles and pages that talk about scams and, you know, different tips and information about the various ones. Then if you go to the ftc.gov, and it's actually /explore data, that brings you to this page. And this is where I got all those infographics that I had in my presentation. And there are way more. That was my control. I love graphs. So I was like, how many is too many for me to put into my presentation? I would have loved to show you guys all of these, but I decided me just showing you the website and letting you click would work out better. And so they have, you know, the featured section is all about COVID, because unfortunately COVID scams, you know, scammers take advantage of any confusion, any issues in the world. And so we've seen a ton of COVID scams pop up. The FCC, so the FTC is the Federal Trade Commission. The FCC is the Federal Communications Commission, and they have a scam glossary. And so you can look up kind of basically all of those scams that I had listed on the one page. There's a quick definition here that goes over them. And then AARP also has a lot of great scam information. And the really nice thing about AARP is you can sign up for free watchdog alerts. So anytime a new scam kind of hits AARP's website, they'll send you an email and they'll say, hey, this is this new thing that's going on. Here are some tips to avoid it, or here are some tips to realize that it is a scam and not to believe what they're telling you. And then lastly, I have kind of our agency, because like I said, our information and assistance department is when in doubt, call us. I don't know who to call. I don't know what's going on. I need help. I need just to be pointed in the right direction. You can call our information and assistance line and we'll point you in the right direction. Because I do have kind of all of those definitions from the website in a document. So if you're not able to navigate there and you do want a copy of them, you can always reach out to me. I can either email you or print it out and mail you a copy of everything. And that is everything I have for today. So are there any other questions?
I think you've done a fabulous job and addressed the questions before we even asked them. So it's been fantastic, thorough. We're very impressed. I've gotten comments privately and they're public comments about how good a job you've done. And I know it's covered a lot of areas where many of us have had content. Like Mary Van Cott just said, thank you very much for this amazing presentation. And I totally agree. And so we really appreciate it and want to, I suspect you're going to get a lot of calls in the future.